Wednesday, June 4th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we give the first four of Toshokan Sensou, aka Library War.
Let's do this.
So what could be better than the best anime podcast in the English-speaking world going once a week? How about going once every other week?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, people, because I know Wednesday probably gets the most listeners who don't listen to any other nights, so I figure we should bring it up right at the beginning. For various reasons, partly because we haven't made our swag yet, and because we're actually trying to do that whole, video thing. And it's summer, which is pretty much the biggest confounding factor here. We're enacting the Geeknights originally planned for Season 3 half-sabbatical schedule.
Yes, now instead of Geeknights being 4 nights a week, it'll be 2 nights a week, but there will still be 4 shows. So instead of thinking of Geeknights as one podcast, where you get 4 episodes every week, think of it as 4 podcasts, 4 completely separate podcasts, and each podcast comes out once every other week.
Oh my gosh.
So next week, there will not be a Wednesday episode. But the week after that, there will be a Wednesday episode.
But next week, there will be a Tuesday and a Thursday. You see what we did there? Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. Now, occasionally, if the muse bites us, or there's something we really got to talk about, or we're just bored, there's a chance we might just do a normal episode in between all that. But don't count on it.
No, most likely, instead of doing those, since we're doing half as much Geek Nights, we're probably going to be, putting out other things that are not Geek Nights, but are related in some way.
Yes, and in the very least of those will be, you won't get a Geek Nights special on a normal day anymore. If you get a Geek Nights special, that means it's kind of extra on top of what we're doing normally. Mm-hmm. So you won't get those cop-outs like we used to do whenever we got tired.
Yep. One example of such spin-offs is Scott's Box.
Scott's Box.
Scott's Box. Scott's Box would have been tonight, but it's not going to be. And, Scott's Box has been actually pretty popular. A lot of people like it. I was quite surprised. I didn't think too many people would be interested because I didn't think that many people actually bought comics who also listen to us. So, Scott's Box, though, I think I'm going to take it out of the Geek Nights.
Take it out of the box?
Take it out of the Geek Nights. And people are probably like, oh, no, don't take it out the Geek Nights. No. It's still going to be around. Scott's Box, I'm announcing right now, it's going to be its own thing, on its own. What I'm going to do, the box is in my room. It's sealed. After the show, after we eat probably, I'm going to go and I'm going to turn on the camera, and without editing anything, I'm just going to open the box. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to show you all the goodies that are in there, and I'm not going to cut it up or anything.
Now, we'll probably record the audio, too, and we'll probably put it in this feed or in the experimental feed, because you guys definitely, I imagine, want the audio to listen to, and the video would just be like an extra touch.
Yeah, I'm going to put the video on YouTube and whatever other sites, and, I'll put the link up. It'll be up, probably today or tomorrow as soon as I, compile it.
I'm gonna shoot for the weekend here, my estimate.
No, I'm going to do it because I'm not going to edit it at all. I'm just going to stand in front of the camera, open the box, and do it. I can't do it twice. Once the box is open, it's open. I can't, pretend.
Well, the audio component will not be in the feed right away because I have to do stuff to that.
No, it won't. But the video of me opening the box and showing you all the stuff inside will be a monthly thing. And perhaps, then I'll make addendums to it as well.
Well, remember the debate we had way back where, is Scott's Box going to be when he orders or is it going to be when he gets it? Eventually, Scott's Box could be both.
It could be both.
There's no reason not to.
But for now, it's going to be, for just to start, it's going to be once a month, less than 10-minute video of me opening the box and showing you the goodies. So expect that really soon.
But don't worry, your weekly, bi-weekly, multi-weekly, however you want to call it, Geek Nights, isn't going to change. Just Scott's Box is there.
Yep. So instead of Scott's Box, let's do some news here.
So what's the anime news? Oh my gosh.
Well, it's not really so much anime news. It's sort of manga comic news.
Oh.
Yes, Tokyopop, the sort of company we have to thank for, the manga boom in the U.S.
It's a company we have to thank for the specific kind of manga that has boomed.
Yes, is restructuring.
They're calling it a, quote, progressive reorganization, unquote, which I'll translate that from business speak. yeah, we're trying not to go under in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't like, oh no, manga is in trouble, because actually Viz is growing, Dark Horse is kicking some ass, Vertical's doing pretty well, you know. So don't think this is a sign of, oh no, the end times for manga, the same way, you know, it's sort of the end times for anime in the US.
Nah.
But basically what it shows is that Tokyopop is sort of playing a different game. You see, getting the licenses for these mangas are real expensive, and Viz sort of has a lock on all the really popular ones. Dark Horse has a lock on a bunch of others, and Vertical has a lock on a bunch of the classics, and Tokyopop's having a real hard time getting any good, you know, manga licenses of Japanese things to translate and bring over.
Well, plus, they seem to have always used the shotgun approach.
Yes, the quantity is better than quality, and we'll throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, as opposed to trying to pick out the stickiest poop and then throwing.
But then they keep putting out, it doesn't stick, and they just keep throwing it.
Yeah. But anyway, so actually what it looks like is they're going to split apart, because people don't maybe not realize this. Tokyopop used to put out like anime DVDs. Like they put out Initial D. I have all those actually.
Now, I don't think it needs to be said, but in case, lest we forget.
Tokyopop really sucked at putting out anime.
No, I wouldn't say that they sucked. They were very good at putting it out. What they were is they were very good at taking an otherwise okay show and doing their best to ruin everything that was wholly good and pure about it before releasing it in English.
Well, they also put out DVDs of Reign the Conqueror.
That show, I don't know. I didn't see enough of it to really pass judgment.
What do you mean you didn't see enough of it? You only had to see like 10 seconds to know that it's terrible.
You know, I can't say, because for all I know, it might have been okay.
What are the odds of it being okay?
I give it a 5% chance of being worth finishing the first episode. I saw the first half of the first episode, and I didn't turn it off in disgust. I turned it off to play Counter-Strike.
Yeah. Anyway.
Didn't we try to watch that on TV?
Yes, because it was on right after Lupin.
In fact, I remember we had to find a coaxial cable, and then we plugged it into the wall, wondering if we had cable, and finding out that we did.
Yeah. Anyway. So, Tokyopop restructuring here. What does this mean? It means, first of all, Tokyopop, I'm guessing, is going to be doing a lot less, you know, bringing over of Japanese manga, you know, and translating it, and a lot more publishing of, you know, suckering U.S. kids into writing comics that they will then
We're not
sell.
going to talk about their licensing policy for new artists that they get from the U.S. That's a whole separate discussion.
But the point is that they sort of realize that it's a lot cheaper and a lot more profitable for them to, you know, get, you know, really pay kids in the U.S. a lot less money than they'd have to pay a Japanese company, and then sell the books for the same amount.
Now, beyond that, regardless of what they're going to be putting out, it says here that they're pretty much cutting their distribution, distribution in terms of number of titles published, not number of individual of items in a publishing unit put out. That was awkward.
Yeah.
But they're cutting it in half.
Right.
Half as many volumes a year.
Right, exactly. So that means, all right, first of all, what would happen is they would put a whole bunch of different volumes of manga on the shelf, and people would end up choosing between a Tokyopop and a Tokyopop. So by doing that, they sort of were competing with themselves. You know, it's like if I sell 3 products that are all sort of the same at once, but people can't afford all 3, then they're picking one of the 3 things, and I'm basically paying a lot more money. I'm spending 3 times as much money because the biggest cost is, you know, either buying the license or, you know, creating the original work. The actual printing is not that much.
Now,
you know,
take heed, Tokyopop. They're basically doing what Nintendo figured out a long time ago. Everyone's gonna buy Zelda. Everyone's gonna buy Mario. Let's release Zelda until everyone's bought it. And then when sales start flagging, we release Mario. That way, everyone buys every game.
Yep. So by putting out less volumes, they're going to sell a lot more of each individual volume and therefore make more money. And
well, that is their intent, at least. Yes.
And also, by putting out less volumes, hopefully they will, you know, put out more quality and less. All right. The thing is,
I don't really want to malign Tokyopop.
No, they're not.
I don't like most of their manga.
Yeah, the thing is, I really think about it, right? And it's like, yeah, you look at Tokyopop and you look at their entire body of work and you kind of go, eh. But I buy 2 Tokyopop titles regularly, Beck and Initial D, right? Of course, both of those titles are almost done, and when they're done, I probably won't buy any more Tokyopops at all.
I worry that Tokyopop's going to get hit by a minor version of the Dragon Ball syndrome, where Dragon Ball stops and then half the people disappear.
I don't think that Initial D and Beck... Well, Beck is a pretty big seller, but I don't think Initial D is like their biggest seller. I mean,
No, but I feel like Initial D it's probably a very solid franchise for them.
Yep.
Of course, we don't know because no one tells us.
No, but apparently it was worth it for them to keep publishing the volumes right up to the end.
Initial D has a pretty big following. Like, it's not this widespread following, but there is a strong cult following in the U.S.
No, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Beck was their biggest title, though. But it's only got like a handful of volumes left before it's done. But yeah, I mean, me buying 2 comics regularly from a single publisher, that's pretty good. I mean, there are other publishers that I don't buy, 2 regular titles from them. And you'd think that those are better. I mean, like, I don't buy 2 Viz titles regularly, not since Phoenix ended. But Viz, I look at their body of work, and I think it's better than Tokyopop's.
So I figure it would be a little bit self-serving, but I should mention it because while we'll probably be around, it's very unlikely we'll actually be able to be at this event, especially since we were at the Kinokuniya last weekend for Hal Cali and the Tokyo FM Samurai Beat radio thing. But basically, Kinokuniya, the manager of the Kinokuniya in New York City in Bryant Park, is a pretty damn cool dude, and we're hopefully going to have him on the show sometime soon for an interview.
Yep.
Scott's barking up that tree, but this guy's story is pretty cool. But anyway, one thing that the Kinokuniya is doing very well is that they are catering to the fact that there are a lot of anime and manga fans, and independent of that, a lot of Japanese culture and Japanese music fans in the U.S., especially in New York City.
Well, I mean, if you pick any, demographic, no matter how targeted, there's at least 10 of those people in New York City.
Yeah. Now, but the cool thing is, what they're doing is they're having more and more of these events where there's an event at the bookstore. So you go to the bookstore, and right by there, not too far away, you can get Beard Papas and all that stuff. And the book off is not too far from there. But at Kinokuniya, you get people going in anyway to buy anime and manga and comics and plushies and Kitaro things that we're going to be using a lot more in our video.
Yeah.
But they're also having these events. I mean, we had TMR. We interviewed them along with Brian. Well, I guess Brian Nishi interviewed him along with us.
Yep.
And Samurai Beat Radio. And now they're having this weekend on June 7th, I think that's Saturday, a Gothic Lolita and Maid Fashion Day.
Well, I guess if you're really into Gothic Lolita and Maid Fashion, that's something you should go to. Except, there's something better you should be going to this Saturday.
Oh,
Especially
there?
if you're in New York City.
Oh, is there?
As you see, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, in the Puck Building on the corners of Lafayette and Houston Street in New York City is the annual Museum of Comic and Cartoon Arts Festival, the greatest comic convention in the entire world.
Now, a lot of people refer to this as the MoCCA, but be careful because the MoCCA is a museum, and then there is the MoCCA Arts Festival,
which is their annual fundraiser, which is where they get most of their monies.
It's also basically the latter, which is what we're talking about, is a super awesome Comic Con, and it's not like the Underwear Pervert Comic Cons. This is basically all the awesome indie art and webcomic people and all the cool stuff from comics around the world.
This is a comic convention where you will see like an uber professional sitting at a table next to some kid who just came from the Kinko's with his photocopied, doodles, right next to famous webcomic person, right next to the guy who does Owly, right next to the guy who does Scott Pilgrim.
Now, we're definitely going to be there, along with Yuko and Ananth and Emily and hopefully a bunch of other front row crew people.
On Saturday only, though. It's not as good as this con is, unless you're sitting at a table, which the tables are actually really expensive. There's not really a reason to be there both days. You walk around and look at all the tables, and then you go, that was awesome. And you walk out with 2 sacks full of comics, and you don't need to come back the next day, unless you're rich.
Now, we'll be there interviewing and hanging out and checking people, but we avoid being there. Like, we don't want to get a table or anything, partly because, 1, I want to spend my time walking around.
Yep.
And 2, I don't want to deny even the kid with Kinko's from having his table there.
Man, the kids with Kinko's have some of the best comics there.
Teen Boat?
I mean, your Teen Boat, you're talking like little tiny, like comic that's like could like an inch by an inch that has little pictures of monsters in it.
What was the name of that comic or the people who gave us those little custom free ghosts?
Oh, the people who make the woodcraft. Oh.
Every year, we saw them.
I have their business card. I know what they are, but it's in my room.
They had the best promotion ever. They just gave away free, unique Pac-Man ghosts made out of wood. And I remember taking one thinking, wow, this is a really good idea. And then I got home and immediately forgot who they were because they didn't sign the ghosts.
I still have their business card. I know who they are. When we talk about the MoCCA, probably 2 weeks from now, we will...
we will make a point of mentioning these people because they
I'm pretty sure I mentioned them the last MoCCA episode, but... last year. Look in the Wednesday episodes from around June of 07, and you will find possibly me mentioning.
But anyway,
them.
if you're gonna be in the city for the MoCCA on Saturday, you might as well also go to the Kinokuniya for the Lolita and Maid Fashion Day. Del Rey, Samurai Beat Radio, who I mentioned repeatedly only because we're getting more and more involved with them as time goes on.
And if you live in the city, right, why not go to the Lolita Fashion Show Saturday and the MoCCA Sunday?
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
So I got one more quick news. I just want to bring this up because not too long ago we mentioned the strange occurrence whereby Jojo's Bizarre Adventure ran into some difficulty.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to get into all the details, but I'm sure you all wondered what was up with that because we wondered what was up with that. And the answer came out pretty quickly, and then there was a follow-up. But the deal, basically, is that in a particular episode of the anime, there was a book that's I'm trying not to spoil anything either, is reading from this book. And while he's reading from the book, he's vowing to kill another character. Now, apparently in the manga, it's just some unintelligible book, whatever. I didn't ever read the manga, but in the anime, and I don't know who noticed this, let alone decided to make a ruckus about it. You can read the news if you really care about who made a ruckus about it. Happened to, by random chance, they just took pages from the Quran and stuck them in there because they needed something.
Well, maybe they were making a funny commentary because someone was vowing to kill someone, and the Quran is full of vows to kill
all
people.
All indications are that it was just completely, hey, that looks good, throw it in.
All right. Like a lorem ipsum supplement?
Yeah, something like that.
All righty.
And as a result, that was pretty much the reason behind the issue with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And in fact...
Wait, so because one episode has that, this company, that the entire company, all they really did was put out this anime, stop putting out the whole anime? Why didn't they just edit that one episode?
I don't think that company was doing too well anyway.
I know. And, I mean, even if they... I guess they could have stood up to their guns and we're going to put it out unedited anyway, freedom of speech. But if you don't have the money to fight, in court, even if you're going to win... then just, they could have just edited the thing. What the hell?
Yes, but the trouble got even further because apparently, basically, Japan's foreign ministry apologized for all of this. This, I don't want to get into it because it's Wednesday, it's anime night.
Obviously, we're on the side if they should have just put it out unedited and given these people the finger.
Yes.
That's
or
obviously our
least,
stance.
Explain what happened. I'm even okay with apologizing because it was clearly an accident. That there's not a lot of indication that there was any actual or true malice behind it.
No, it's true. Not like our friends who make the Dutch cartoons.
However, actually,
awesome.
That was also blown way out of proportion.
I didn't say it wasn't, but they were it's a little different between that and this.
But the fact that this was probably an accident, and if they just apologized, they should have just continued publishing, and that bothers me. But in case you wondered, that's the deal. But moving on to things that are not nearly so sad. Things of the day. You see how I said that? Things that aren't so bad. Things of the day.
Great.
It's poetic. It's almost prose.
No, it's not.
Anyway, so this is a little old, but it really if you haven't seen this, you need to see it. Because this, I think it's relevant. One, because it's animation. Two, it's remixing, which is a very big part of the anime manga culture, both in the US and Japan. And three, it's very, very, very well done. Basically, what this is, there's someone named Pogo, a, quote, electro musician, who took...
I'm a fan of electro musicians.
I am too. But what he did is he took scenes from the original animated movie Alice in Wonderland. And...
How original was it? It was based on a book.
Well, I don't know if there... I worry that there was some knockoff anime or something I don't know about.
We're talking about the Disney one, people.
Yes. If you've seen some other Alice in Wonderland that may or may not have been pornographic, we're not talking about that.
Yeah, we're not talking about Alice in Looking Glass either.
No, different thing. Anyway, so Alice in
And no
Wonderland.
Jabberwockies either.
He took footage from it and remixed it together to make a video. Then he took sounds and samples from the movie and made a techno song. He put them together and made a dual remix.
Yeah, he didn't actually, it wasn't a mash up. He didn't take materials from two separate things and combine them.
It was like a mash in or a mash out or a mash together.
And he wasn't like the Phantom Edit where he took a movie and just, edited it, the audio and the video together, removing in scenes or reordering scenes to make a new movie.
Someday, one of my crazy projects is still to make a Phantom Edit of Sailor Moon.
That's a good one. What he did is he took the audio from the movie, sampled it, created a song, then took the video from the movie, sampled it, remixed it, and made a music video for the song. So using the source material of a full-length animated, motion picture feature animated film, I totally messed that up.
That was fantastic.
He made an animated music video.
This is super high quality, and if nothing else, I think that this alone, if you have never been convinced by anything else, and I guess if I don't know what's wrong with you if you're listening to Geeknights while having this sort of opinion, this is why we need fair use. This is why copyright needs to allow for the creative use of other people's works.
Yep. And also, watching this, I realized, wow, that Alice in Wonderland movie was really well animated.
Actually,
I didn't realize it, earlier in my life.
Kind of randomly, out of the blue today, I was also watching a YouTube clip from the Aristocats. Mm-hmm. Also, super well animated.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I actually really, really liked that movie as a kid, but I haven't seen it in 2 decades. I cannot vouch for how good the Aristocats is, but I liked the Aristocats as a kid.
It was okay. I'm more of a Great Mouse Detective kind of.
Oh, the Great Mouse Detective. That's going in the Netflix queue so hard.
Maybe it's on the Roku,
so
which we'll talk about.
That's in the Roku. We might have to watch it tonight.
Maybe.
Fuck sleep.
All right. So, check this shit out. Someone awesome named Otaku King. He's the king of otaku.
Otaku King or Ota King? Because
it is Ota King. I'm right. I messed up.
Otaku King is like people who say conservatism when they mean conservatism.
That's right.
Ota King is from something that if you don't know what it is, you are not old school.
Right. Right.
It's not even that old school. Anyway.
Oh, yes, he actually is Ota King. I'm messing everything up tonight, aren't I? The Ota King from the UK made a documentary. Now, you might think, an Ota King making a documentary. Could this perhaps be, a documentary, no video or something? But no, it isn't. This guy, the Ota King, he's actually a professional, as in that's what he does for his job, like video game and animation translator adapter person. He's the guy translating Japanese video games into, I guess, UK English, which is not the same as our English. And he's...
UK? I believe you mean Albionic.
Yeah, actually, I think he's actually from the UK, whatever. Anyway, the point is, this dude, right, is pretty good at the translating, and of course, being named Ota King, he's a fan of the animes. And he's pissed off about the state of anime fan subbing these days.
Before you go, one of those people, because those people. The people who don't even understand any Japanese, but will watch a fan sub and the whole time exclaim how bad the translation was. Or the people who will watch a dub and then the subtitle track is also on, and they, based on the subtitle track, assume that the dub is wrong, but assume that somehow the subtitles were right.
Yes.
The people who prefer one subtitling group over the other because of the minutia that they don't even understand, those people.
Right. No, this guy actually knows what he's talking about, and he made a documentary, and it's in 5 parts, but it's only in 5 parts because it's on YouTube, and I'm working with him. Actually, I'll tell you this. I'm working with him to try to get him on the show, but he says he's a little shy, so you can email him and encourage him to be on the show. Also, I'm working with him to try to get like a high quality version of the documentary that's all in one piece to make it easier to watch it at, say conventions and stuff. And in this documentary, he brings up an issue, and it's an issue I didn't even realize was an issue. But watching the documentary, I've pretty much come over 99% over to his side of things. And now that I was watching a fan sub, which we're going to talk about, on the way to and from work today.
Oh, good God. The fan sub. That was a bad fan sub.
Right. And, watching it and thinking back to this documentary, I was like, wow, this dude is totally right. And now I'm really bothered by fan subs. It's like you're looking at something bad and you didn't realize it was a bad. And now this guy in his documentary comes out and points out how bad it is. And now all you do is see the badness all over the place. And you're like, no, you're right. It is terrible. These fan subs all suck ass.
Really, the only things I disagree with him on are...
Did you watch the whole thing?
I watched a bunch of it. I got to watch the rest.
Uh-huh.
But I disagree a tiny bit, but I realize I don't fully disagree, and I can't say that I disagree because while I see value in a very tiny number of the things he talks about as being bad, though that value is only there for, I guess, advanced anime watchers or people who are kind of very used to watching anime. And it really does a disservice to anyone who is not like that to try to watch a fan sub that does that.
Yeah.
And I feel like, if anything, the far, far future of translation, I could see having multiple subtitle tracks for people who aren't familiar with versus people who are, that sort of stuff. But
maybe. So I think that really the one thing I learned from this documentary is that fan subs being sort of the primary way of new shows being introduced to the fandom in the US, whereas it used to be sort of after school television, is then the fact that fan subs are done in the terrible way that they are done is really hurting and making it difficult for new people to get into anime, watching anime. It's making it very hard to be a new anime fan in respect of pleasing existing anime fans. Sort of similar to the way that, you try to read like a Marvel or DC comic book and you can't understand what the fuck is going on because you haven't been reading them for the past 5 years and you don't know all the history of all these characters and the crazy universe and what's going on in all the 100 books. Makes it very hard for new superhero comics fans. And, but at the same time, if you tried to please the new fans, you would piss off the old ones. And he points this out very well, and I didn't even realize it, and I'm all for it. And we might be discussing this more in the future.
oh, we will definitely be having a show or something about this.
If we can't get him on the show, we might even just have a show, discussing it, or who knows. But yeah.
So one thing,
watch the documentary.
One thing that you can always do to make either something great or something horrible is to take two things that you wouldn't expect to be related together and relate them together, possibly in a single show or manga or comic book. For example, you take X-Men, you take zombies, throw them together, you get something that is both more and less than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, man, they're coming out with a third Marvel Zombies comic miniseries.
Why?
Because they made Marvel...
It was so dumb.
Well, in the story with Marvel Zombies, right, is that one of the ultimate Marvel comic books, right, they had this zombie thing for a little bit. They're like, oh, this is a zombie universe. Okay. And then they made Marvel Zombies. It was a miniseries. I bought 2 issues of it, and it was kind of bleh. Then that sold so well, they made Marvel Zombies 2. And apparently that sold well enough for them to make Marvel Zombies 3. That's all I'm saying.
So anyway, what if you took libraries and mixed them with guns?
Isn't that just read or die?
Well, that was libraries, guns, and superpowers.
Ah, okay.
So that's a 3-way. This is only a 2-way.
Yeah.
So it's not quite the same thing. But no, tonight we are talking about Toshokan Sensou, a.k.a. Library Wars.
Yes, Toshokan means library. So you know that BitTorrent site, Tokyo Toshokan? It means Tokyo Library. I'm learning Japanese with the Geeknights.
Now, I don't know how many of you have watched any of this show yet, and I'll say straight up that we're not doing a full review. I'm thinking of kind of renaming, because we used to say, we have a preview and then a review.
I don't think we should name it at all. I think we should just, when we talk about the show, we should say if there's going to be spoilers and say how much we've seen and say how much, we should say how much we've seen and how much we're going to discuss. Because I could have seen a whole show, but only discussed the first episode.
But at the same time, I feel as though you do that up to a point, but a review can only occur when you have seen the entire show. And you really can't call something a review before that because you don't know.
But a review isn't, unless someone is going to think, unless the show is already all done. I mean, what if someone wants to watch the show as it comes out? There is a purpose to sort of discussing a show before it's all done.
I'm just saying that is not a review. And at the same time, I really like calling the shows where we fully spoil and tell the full-on all. the shows where we don't really talk about what happens. We talk about the why and all the things that you don't like. You assume that we already watched the show. I definitely like calling that final thoughts. It's kind of this separate thing. You don't go into that expecting us to explain the plot. We assume you know the plot, and we talk about how so-and-so totally got shot.
Mm.
I was thinking about calling this the first 4.
Maybe. That's not bad.
Because,
But I've watched 6.
Oh.
How many did you watch?
4.
Oh.
Well, here's the thing. At the RIT Anime Club, the thing that worked really well, and to this day, every anime club, this is the way to get people into new anime. Every week, we would show the first 4 episodes of a different show. And
except for the very first week of Anime Club, where we would show 4 first episodes of 4 different shows.
Or occasionally 3 first episodes and 1 fifth episode.
That's, yeah.
But anyway, I can think of so few times where I have watched the entire first 4 episodes of an anime and not been able to figure out if I like the show or not.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that after Gonzo shows, you sort of know that at the end they're going to go, doo,
yes.
right? But other than that, where there's a trend that you can sort of target an association with a production studio or director, you watch the first 4 episodes of a show, and if you're not hooked on the show by then, you sort of know if you're going to watch the show to the end or not, and you sort of know what kind of person is going to watch the show to the end or not.
I mean, the acid test for us way back was when they showed us Initial D. We saw 4 episodes, and we thought it was the stupidest goddamn thing ever made. We just made fun of it the whole way through. We thought it was dumb. And then on the way home from club, the whole front row crew, as it was, is walking, and someone turns to someone else and says, "So, do you think he wins the next race?"
And then they had a marathon, and we sat there through the whole goddamn thing.
Yep.
And now I own the whole thing.
But
I have
anyway.
all the manga.
So, Library Wars, the plot is possibly what you might expect. I would almost say that it's a lot like Full Metal Panic, but
No.
like the aesthetic. The raw, bare, super zoomed out aesthetic reminds me a lot of that show.
Oh, that's true.
However, if once you zoom in, I hated Full Metal Panic, and I really like this show. And there's a lot of reasons why.
Well, here's the thing, right? On the one hand, the actual sort of universe that this story takes place in is preposterous. It is absolutely makes no sense, and it's incredibly difficult to suspend my disbelief.
In 1989, the Japanese government, after much pressure from various groups, passed the Media Betterment Act.
But they also passed the Library Act.
Well, the Media Betterment Act was basically the Fahrenheit 451 burn all the books law.
There's actually a copy of Fahrenheit 451 in episode 6. Spoilers! Oh.
So apparently one thing led to another, and the intelligent people of the country got together and made sure that an anti-MBA military force was founded based on the Freedom of the Libraries law. And
basically, a country made 2 laws, and these 2 laws basically set up so that there would be 2 private one public and one semi-public military force fighting against each other within the country of Japan.
Now, of course,
which is absolutely crazy.
This was after that, what's the name of that incident?
Oh, the Hino?
Yes, the Hino Library incident.
Because there always has to be an incident, right? Gundam Seed, you have the...
Bloody Valentine.
Bloody Valentine. And,
maybe it wasn't. It was something Valentine.
I'm pretty sure it's Bloody Valentine.
The Bloody Valentine, that was like the bloody... anyway.
Anyway, all these animes, they always have that incident in the past.
Junius 7.
Yo, it's Junius 7, right? That was the name of the colony. And it's always that same sort of shtick.
But basically, the government busted in with this... Basically, a bunch of people who are dressed like M. Bison go around trying to burn books. And meanwhile, the librarians are all armed with a full military.
Yeah, they're not allowed to burn books that the libraries have. So the libraries go around buying books and protecting them from the people who are M. Bison.
Which is great, because there is a scene where, this isn't really a spoiler, where something happened outside of a library in some other building, and the police are like, we'll handle it, and the library corps basically say, hold on a minute, and they buy the building, declare it a library, and then bust in with guns.
Yeah, because they're not allowed to go if it's not a library. And the thing about this show, right, is that on the one hand, you've got sort of like this, the big setup is this whole library war thing, but they don't really go and investigate this whole, it obviously they want to give a message about, censorship. It's the same moral as Fahrenheit 451, but they don't ever actually explore that moral very much at all. They just sort of use it as an excuse for military action in a civilian setting.
Now, that is one of the reasons why I was originally comparing it to Full Metal Panic, because Full Metal Panic was half, all right, let's have military stuff going on in an otherwise totally normal world.
Yep.
And the problem with that was that show tried to be two completely different shows at the same time, and as a result, neither one was very good.
Mm-hmm. Now, the thing that saves Toshokan Sensou, right, is the characters in the show. It's almost like it's a separate show. It's like there's a it's not like a great show, but it's a perfectly normal, above average anime character drama, and they just happen to use this crazy, ludicrous backdrop of library wars behind it. But the character drama itself is perfectly fine, and it's actually really great, and I like the characters, and I like the way they, develop and how they work with each other and the situations they get in and the whole thing. It's just, they happen to put it in ludicrous land.
But the cool thing, now again, we've only seen the first 4 episodes.
I saw 6.
Okay, you saw 6. We have seen, on average, 5 episodes. but it wasn't that funny.
It was very funny.
Okay. But we don't know. This might be one of those shows that later on pulls oh no, now we're getting into the plot business. The setting is going to be plotty, but
I'm pretty confident that it might go in that direction, but I could also see it going in the concentrate on the characters direction.
Or in the very least, it seems for now to be going in it is not about the setting, it's about the characters, and the setting is just an excuse to have all this go on. And as a result, it's very obvious. The good guys want to protect books. They are clearly the good guys. The bad guys want to burn books. They're all dressed like M. Bison.
It's a little similar to Cowboy Bebop in that respect. And the Cowboy Bebop had this world that was really just a backdrop for the unrelated character, or all slightly related character drama. Even though Cowboy Bebop's setting was less preposterous, but perhaps also didn't have such a built-in moral that was blazingly obvious like this show does.
Preposterous is the right word, because we mentioned it earlier, but there's kind of the scale where there's Cowboy Bebop, and then you take one step more toward preposterousity.
Yeah, basically, while I'm watching...
And that is this show.
While I'm watching Toshokan Sensou, I sort of alternate. It's like I'll be watching it, and suddenly there'll be a scene where my just suspension of disbelief flies right out the window, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is the stupidest, most ludicrous bullshit I've ever seen. But then I'm like... But you know what? I'll sit here for the next 30 seconds until this bullshit is over, because then there's going to be 5 minutes of the characters that I've grown to like suddenly.
And I really like the characters because, again, kind of like Full Metal Panic, there's the characters aren't really stereotypical, but they're all really strongly cast, and they're not, they stand out and they're interesting, and I'm interested in all of them. And there's kind of the same separation of character roles like Full Metal Panic, but Full Metal Panic took all those character roles, put them all to the extreme, and made it dumb as a result. Yeah. Man, I gotta stop. I'm just trashing Full Metal Panic. God.
I know. The other thing is that some of the episodes, the individual episode plots, are sort of resolved often by, semi-deus ex machina things, which are hard to believe.
But it works because it's early on.
Yeah.
It's a lot of those things, I don't think they're really deus ex machina, as in there's these parallels, because the whole point, all right, the real story of the show, forget the library wars and all that, is there's a girl who loves books, and she is trying to buy a banned book at a bookstore just as these M. Bison types bust in, and they take the book from her, and she tries to defend it. And then a knight in shining armor, basically one of these library corps people, saves her and saves the book, and she looks up to this person, wants to become like this person. So she joins the library corps, and that's where the show kind of begins. So you have these parallels where then this drill sergeant that she works with, there's the same kind of relationship, and then he's a lot like she was when she was young, and this idealism playing through, and et cetera, et cetera.
It's that typical anime thing where, is that drill sergeant? Is he the guy who saved her way back in the day? Or he's a lot like her, because they never show the guy's face, and It's sort of like the whole.
Or is it this is the cycle of how people like this are born?
Yeah, and then they, it's like obviously they're supposed to get together, but they don't. And there's some other characters in there, like the cool roommate girl and the other officers, and then the person who's also on the same team as she is, the Tezuka kid. When they said Tezuka, I thought they were talking about Tezuka, like when they first said his name.
You're like, Osamu Tezuka's in this with
it's
a gun?
about books, so I thought they were going to save a Tezuka book, but then it was like, oh wait, no, this guy's name is Tezuka. This new character they just introduced 2 seconds ago. Okay.
So the main character, well, I guess the super main character, though, this is one of those shows where there's kind of a core of mostly mainish characters.
Yeah, definitely.
Iku, I really like her because she's not super stereotypical at all.
No, she I can't really think of that many,
She reminds me a little bit of Hitomi from Escaflowne in terms of personality.
A little bit. She's a little crazier, a little more energetic in the emotions, at least.
She's also tall, athletic, strong, and kind of full of fight.
Yeah. She's not stupid, but she's a little. They show her not performing at peak in the mental tasks as much as the physical tasks.
But not right away, but what she does have are guts.
She's got plenty of guts, that's for sure. All right, so this show is made by Production IG. Those are the people who make the Ghost in the Shell standalone complexes and such. And as you would expect, the animation is completely awesome and off the wall.
It's super on model, but they do a lot of this.
Sometimes there's a little, there was one, I guess maybe in the later episodes, there's a few parts that are off model. They drew her roommate. I remember in one scene, they drew it in such a way that she was really tall, way taller than she ever was before. And I was like, what?
Might not have noticed that. I was kind of distracted by Super
You didn't. I don't think
Dodgeball.
you saw that episode.
I definitely didn't.
There was also another one where they animated the main character walking a little weird. It's it seems like they got one bad animator on the team, and one scene in 20 will be a little awkward.
You hear that, Takashi? Or
yeah,
Takeshi?
Tanaka. But otherwise, the graphical quality of this show is at Production IG standards.
Now they slip away into kind of super deformed land a lot, but they do it in a stylistically more unique way than you usually see.
It's very polished and shiny, and the colors are really strong, and it's obvious that these people have the animation skills and technologies and budget.
It's definitely, though, one thing you'll notice is it's one of those thick line shows. There's everything's thick, and there's thick lines and strong lines everywhere, and that's how I would characterize it.
Yep. The music is, the opener and closer are pretty much standard J-pop songs. They didn't really catch me. They catch you?
I didn't even notice them.
Yeah, they're just J-pop songs, typical. Sony Music is, I guess, one of these sponsors. You know what the other sponsor is?
Who?
Pocky.
Oh, I was expecting something related to books, I guess.
It's actually Glico, but they make Pocky.
Well, yes, they do.
Yeah, because I was watching it. It was like, okay, they showed it, sponsors, whatever.
Now, if you have any doubts as to where the show's loyalties lie, I'll point out that the manga is published in Dengeki Daioh.
That is the same manga anthology that publishes the Azumanga Daioh, the Yotsuba, etc.
Now, it's ongoing, as is the anime. The anime's not done yet.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I like it, and I'm probably going to watch all of it.
I'd probably watch all of it. I mean, it's better than a lot of other anime I've seen recently. It's not some amazing, perfect anime, because there is still the absolutely unbelievable universe that makes absolutely no sense and is really kind of painful at moments.
I will say one thing, though. The universe works partly because apparently the author of the manga, Hiro Arakawa, writes a lot about the SDF and military stuff. And she knows what she's doing, because the action scenes, the military action scenes, which are actually a surprising
not too bad.
minority. Most of the show is just the characters hanging out and talking and doing their thing. It's not like a super action show. It's a lot of character stuff, and then the action kind of comes in and punctuates what the characters were doing.
Yep.
But the action is very realistic in terms of military tactics and that sort of thing. There's a lot of subtle, sniper tactics and squad tactics. They're animated very much more properly than the average anime would animate them.
Far better than Zaiza and Jotaro animates them.
I don't think you can say... It's hard to say better because you can't multiply by 0 and get anywhere. I mean, if this show had flat helicopters that come out of nowhere, whoop,
It has plenty. Actually, the helicopters are really nice in this show.
Yeah, they are. But like all the little details of squad tactics are there. And you won't care about this unless you're a military otaku, but if you care, it's there.
Yep. But the reason for the tactics is stupid.
It's not that stupid.
It's not that stupid.
Because
It's weird because you have this ludicrous, completely off the wall, unbelievable premise, yet the aesthetic of the premise is awesome. And the moral of the premise is sort of obvious Fahrenheit 451 moral.
But
yes, it doesn't matter.
The moral is obviously you should not let books out that damage you, and you should burn anything controversial, of course.
Exactly.
And Bison will help you.
But you sort of ignore the, lack of belief in the premise because you like the aesthetic and the character drama, and there isn't that much of the premise going around.
It's interesting we brought up Read or Die, because if this show takes a step toward preposterity from something like Cowboy Bebop, then of course Read or Die goes beyond the word preposterous to the point where it's so out there that you have no choice but to take it completely at face value.
Well, I think the difference is that this world presented in Toshokan Sensou is in every other aspect like the real world. There's no magic or anything else crazy, and people are generally smart and whatnot. So the fact that this incredibly stupid thing would happen sort of doesn't fit, whereas in Read or Die is a totally fantastical world. So they sort of make up their own rules, and they're self-consistent, so it works.
What I think worked so well, though, is that Read or Die was this completely fantastical group of characters and plot set in, other than all these people, a completely normal world. Everything was normal except all the characters in the show.
It's weird. It's like when you're doing any sort of story, right? There's sort of like this line you cross to where, you're fantasy enough. Well, first of all, you always have to be self-consistent, or else, it's always going to be screwed up, no matter how fantasy you are. But it's like you become fantasy enough that you can do really weird things and have people believe them as long as they're self-consistent. But if you're not fantasy enough, if you're only a tiny bit fantasy and everything else is very much reality, then it becomes hard to accept that little bit of fantasy, even if, it's self-consistent. It's sort of like DMZ.
I was about to say, it's kind of like DMZ. Jinx.
Yeah.
But the only difference I would say is that I'm able to run with this a lot more easily than I was with DMZ. I forced myself to go, screw it, I like the story.
Actually, I've run with DMZ a little more easily than I run with this.
Well, the thing is, with DMZ, I think what I was able to do is I purposefully decided to not consider anything but the actual story of the guy. And that was the only way I could get around it. In this show, I'm going with everything it presents me in the world. And as a result, every now and then I have the pangs of, that doesn't make any sense. But that's always supplanted by, but it's totally fucking awesome.
Yeah. See, in DMZ, my lack of belief is sort of meta in that when I'm not reading it, I think about what DMZ is, and I say, wow, that's really unbelievable. While reading DMZ, the lack of believability in the premise doesn't get in my face.
When he met the rednecks at the tunnel is when my ability to run with that setting got shot.
See, I don't know. It didn't bother me. But in Toshokan Sensou, for like a minute or two per episode, when the premise gets in my face, it kind of is like, and I sort of just try to get through it to get on to the part where, the characters are there. And I can forget about the, absolutely insane book thing.
But seriously, the show is really fun. And
it is fun.
You know what? I hate to make a recommendation so open like this, but if you like anime, if you're an anime fan, you would care, not just, I like specific anime, as people who a lot of people like, everyone likes Cowboy Bebop, but not everyone likes Cowboy Bebop as an anime fan. They might just be a Cowboy Bebop fan, and then they like this other thing and that other thing, like most normal people are. But if you consider yourself to be an anime fan, just in general, you're the kind of person who goes to anime cons, you're the kind of person who does all that, you will probably really like this show.
Yeah, this is a very wide appeal show. It has a lot of stuff. It can appeal to a wide group of people. The military otaku, the serious sci-fi people a little bit. The people looking for the character drama, the comedy people. Little slice of life action.
Like for you military otaku, they don't bring it up, but if you pay attention, The uniforms and the badges and the ranks and all that stuff is perfectly self-referentially consistent.
Yeah, it's got the shoujo relationship action going on.
I actually really like the relationship stuff.
I do.
because
That's my favorite part of the show.
just when someone asks
Because it's sort of
someone
like
out,
Utena with the fairy tale, backstory.
Yes.
Plus with the...
But also when someone asks someone out, I actually really thought that was funny.
It was pretty good. It came out of nowhere, but it was all right.
It's a solid show. What more can I say? You'll probably like it. If you want something light,
If you can get past and you can deal in your mind with the fact that the world makes no sense, then you can watch this show. And you'll probably enjoy it. It won't be the best show ever, but you'll probably like it. At least you'll like 6 episodes worth.
this has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.